Good morning, everyone. We're continuing here in the Laws of KASHRUS by Rabbi Forst, and today is the last paragraph in this first chapter of the Laws of Basar v'Cholav, of the laws of milk, of meat and milk together, or really not together. And it's called Din Kior HaMitbach. This is the halacha that deals with the kitchen sink. Ratzui shelo lishtamish b'kior echad la'adachas klei basar. Really, if you could work it out in your kitchen, it would be better to have two separate sinks, one for Fleishigs and one for Milchigs, so you don't have to use the same sink for both. However, this is probably the way that many people that are listening, this is the way that it works in your kitchen. They only have one sink. And you eat milchigs and fleishigs in your house, so you have to use one sink for both the meat and the milk. There are three ways, says Rav Forst, that a person could utilize this sink for both milchigs and fleishigs. The first way, you should not put any of the utensils or the vessels directly into the sink. Rather, the only way to wash it off is when you're holding the utensil or the vessel in your hands. So it's running under the water. The kli is never touching the walls of the sink, and therefore you never have to worry about the vessel becoming treif because there's meat and milk that's going through that sink. The second way is or you have these two large vessels. I think many people use like a blue plastic case, so to speak, and for the milk, and a red one perhaps for the meat, and it's an insert that they can put into the sink, and then they can wash inside of there. And then you end up having the meat vessels that go into this big rubber or this big case that you have inside of the sink, and you wash all the fleshing things. And so too you have a large vessel that you use for the milk and dairy products, and you wash them in there. Now, it's better that you should put like a piece of wood or some other kind of material underneath this large vessel, in order that the vessel itself, is not resting on the floor of the sink. It's not touching the sink exactly. Perhaps what we're concerned about is that maybe that the hot water is going to heat up the walls of the kli, and then it's going to go into the plates, and then you're going to end up with treif plates. Possibly that might be a concern, and therefore it's better if you can have it elevated off the ground a little bit. The third way is liyachet shnei serigim. You should have you could have racks that you put onto the bottom of the sink. Echad b'sai v'echad chalavi. One, of course, would be for meat, and one will be for milk. And when you're going to wash fleishig utensils, you put the rack of meat on the bottom, the meaty rack on the bottom. And when you're going to wash milchigs, so then of course you would put the rack for the milchigs on the bottom. And it should be that these racks are elevated from the floor of the sink, because you don't want that the water that's on the bottom of the sink is going to shoot up onto the vessels that you're washing. Also be careful, don't plug up the drain, so that the water will start rising and then touch your vessels, touch your kelim. Again, all assuming that you're using very hot water over here, and whatever's in the sink itself, you have milchigs and fleishigs going down that drain, falling onto the sink, so the sink itself would really be, that's what it seems to be saying, is not a kosher sink. So therefore you have to wash everything not in the sink. Now I just want to mention that there are many people that are under the impression that if you have what's called a double sink, which means that you really have one sink, but it's divided up into two parts. So people think that you could use one side for milchig and one side for fleishig, and you could wash the kelim, your utensils, right in that sink itself. The right side, for example, will be for the meat, and the left side will be for the dairy. But if you look carefully at that sink, you'll notice it's all one piece of metal. And if it's all one piece of metal or it's one piece of porcelain, so then it's all connected. And if you end up using hot fleishigs on the right side, so you should know that it's transferring throughout the entirety of that sink, and therefore the other side is now also fleishig. And if you use hot milchigs now on the left side, so then it's transferring to the entire thing. So now you have a sink that is vadai, that is certainly treif over here, and it could be, God forbid, treifing up your utensils. So if you have two separate sinks, it doesn't help in to be able not to use one of these ideas that they're saying over here. Now you could just designate one side for milk and one side for meat, and you'll put either your big container over there that you're going to wash your kelim in, or you'll put the mat on the bottom that you're going to use one side for milk and one side for fleishig. But still, you have to be careful to make sure that you're not having the water come up from the drain, and number two, that you're not letting the utensils touch the walls of the sink, because the right side is not milchig and the left side is not fleishig, or vice versa. It's really, if hot milchigs and fleishigs going into either side, it's creating a sink that is not kosher, that's really has treif in it. Okay, that is the end of the first chapter over here in the laws of Basar v'Chalav, and we will continue Be'ezus Hashem tomorrow with more halachas in KASHRUS. Have a wonderful day.